Assalamu alaikum. This is your course instructor Dr. Faiza Shaheen here with the course title as Educational Psychology EDUC 3112. This course is for B.Ed 1.5 B.Ed secondary classes. The major objectives of this course is by the end of the course students will be able to describe in detail the multidisciplinary nature of educational psychology. Educational psychology is an applied branch of psychology which applies psychological rules, techniques, principles in the field of education. So after reading this course, you will be familiarized students with basic theories derived from various disciplines which are related to education. Develop critical thinking about the appreciation of educational psychology as multidisciplinary subject, because this subject is not based on psychology only, but it also includes some theories of education and some context of education, so it is a multidisciplinary subject. Another outcome is to familiarize with the concept of test development, because there are so many points and concepts in this outline. So these are the 4 outcomes that students will be able to learn at the end of the course. One by one we will see that what are the spread of this course. Number 1, Introduction to Psychology. This will comprise the first lecture, Introduction to Psychology. Then there are 3 schools of thought: structuralism, functionalism and behaviorism. Nature and function of educational psychology will be discussed. 4-way teaching agenda of educational psychology, because educational psychology is a mixed subject, applied branch of psychology, so it tells us different techniques and principles to be applied in the context of education. So teaching agenda is told by the educational psychology. Number 2nd unit says fundamentals of human growth. In this chapter we will see that what is the overview of growth and development, because these are 2 ultimate terms which are used interchangeably. Sometimes we say growth and sometimes we mean development. Whenever we are concerned with growth, it means the quantitative change in the human body. Whenever we are concerned with the qualitative change in the human beings, that is development. So further we will see that what is the difference of human and growth, these concepts. 2.2 says general nature of growth and development and factors influencing child development. Those can be internal and external factors in the life of a child development. Unit number 3 is about learning. Learning, as in simple words, it says that positive permanent change in behavior is called learning. So we will see that what is the definition of learning in the context of educational psychology. Then comes learning theories and learning process. Information processing, it includes our mind and brain, that how likely memory works, parts of memory, what is forgetting, how likely you learn and forget something. If some material is learnt and not rehearsed up to a certain period of time, there are so many chances of that to forget that material. Methods to improve memory, these are so many, that the more you rehearse, the more likely chances that you will memorize the material, and you will keep that material into your memory up to a longer period of time if that is rehearsed for several times. Unit number 5 is about intelligence. We have heard that IQ level, this term IQ is used, you must have learnt about it. IQ means that it is a quotient that measures intelligence. So what is the concept of intelligence? We in general terms we say that somebody is more intelligent than the other. So intelligence concepts must be understood by us. Theories of intelligence according to psychology and individual differences. This is an important concept, that all the people do not possess same intelligence, all are having different types of intelligence, so individual differences are there. And being a teacher, this concept must be understood, that how to teach a class according to the individual differences, because all the students are not having same caliber. Intelligence testing, this is practical component. Number 6 and last unit says measurement and evaluation in educational psychology. In this we will see that what is test and how does it develop, characteristics of a good test, and under item analysis we will see item difficulty and item discrimination. Otherwise there is reliability and validity. These are two measures to having a good characteristics of a test as well. Reliability means the consistency of results, and validity means to measure what is supposed to measure. So this is all about your course outline. I have not pasted the reading material and suggested books here due to one reason, that going through thoroughly on your outline, I have suggested you one book, that is S.K. Mangal, Advanced Educational Psychology by S.K. Mangal. In the further lecture I will provide you a link of that book as well. But starting from the initial topic, which is Introduction to Psychology, the first lecture, it will comprise on these points studied here. We will explain educational psychology, we will go through the nature of educational psychology, and the scope of educational psychology will be read here. So starting from here, meaning and definition of educational psychology. Educational psychology consists of two words, psychology and education. While general psychology is a pure science, educational psychology is its application in the field of education with the aim of socializing man and modifying his behavior. Here we know that educational psychology is not a discipline based on single discipline. It is a mix of education as well as of psychology. According to Crow and Crow, there are so many definitions given here. Crow and Crow, Stephen, Judd, and Peele. So you are supposed to learn two definitions with reference to the author name. You can learn only Crow and Crow's definition, or Stephen's definition, or Judd, or by Peele. So one by one, Skinner also defines something here. So starting from Crow and Crow, he says educational psychology describes and explains the learning experiences of an individual from birth through old age. Whatever you learn from your birth to old age, that is your learning experience, and this is studied under the discipline of educational psychology. According to Skinner, educational psychology is the branch of psychology which deals with teaching and learning. So this is quite simple, that the process of the branch that deals with teaching and learning process, that is called educational psychology. Next is Stephen. Stephen defines educational psychology is the systematic study of educational growth and development of a child. Yes, coming up next, Judd. He says educational psychology is the science which explains the changes that take place in the individuals as they pass through the various stages of development. It is understood that there are so many development stages. Simply saying that from birth to infancy, then to adulthood, then to your young age, and then to your old age, there are so many phases of your development. So it says that whatever an individual goes through to the changes during development is called educational psychology. The study of that is called educational psychology. Peele says educational psychology is the science of education. Science of education means that whenever you study systematically about education and you want to know that how students and learners learn and what are the specific techniques to be taught, to be used to teach the students, that is the science of education. After seeing these 5 definitions by reference to the author's name, we have some clear definition. We must have some clear definition about the discipline of educational psychology. It is that educational psychology is one of the branches of applied psychology that is concerned with the application of the principles, techniques, and other resources of psychology to the solution of the problems confronting the teacher, attempting to direct the growth of children toward defined objectives. Whenever a teacher enters into the classroom, he comes up with certain objectives in his mind. So Keeping those objectives in the mind, how likely a teacher can best utilize the rules of psychology in order to solve the problems whatever he is facing. Problems confronting means the teacher is facing some problems and he will use the principles of psychology to solve those problems. Why? Because he need to fulfill his objectives which he or she has made before entering into the classroom. So educational psychology is that discipline which helps us to solve those problems that a teacher confronts in the classrooms. More specifically, we can say educational psychology is concerned with an understanding of 1, 2, 3. Number 1, the child, his development, his needs and potentiality. Without knowing this, a teacher cannot proceed. We must know as a teacher that what is the potential of my student. The learning situation in which learning occurring, it means the dynamics of the classroom. What is happening within the classroom and what are the external factors of the classroom. Number 3 is learning process as a whole. The process means that it involves students, teachers, learning material as well as the learning environment, its nature and the ways to make it effective. Stated differently, the central theme of educational psychology is psychology of learning. This is very important. Psychology of learning. If you focus on this thing, that how students learn, how best they learn, when best they learn, and what are the techniques to be used to teach them, will be read under psychology of learning. So I am making a pause here. Till yet we have gone through 5 definitions of educational psychology with reference to the author name, and now coming next, psychology of learning. There are certain questions and I am not going to read these all, just having an insight to making you ready for the next topic, which is nature of educational psychology. I raise some questions which are written here. How do children acquire skills? What is the best way that you make students or children learn? What is learning? When is learning more effective? Sometimes you teach students with a very important lesson, but they do not focus. So what are the likely situations which are best for their learning? It must be known by a psychological viewpoint, and a teacher must know it. What are the factors that help the learning process? What are the factors that, better be said, that what are the factors that improve learning process? How do we measure the amount of learning? A simple answer to this question is that we take a test of the students at the end of any lecture. This is not really so. We can put certain questions which are related to the topic taught, and students may answer those questions right after the lecture, so we can measure. Are there any economic methods of memorizing? If you have more money and you have low kind of memory, but does it make sense that economic methods can help you in memorizing more? No. Answer is simple, no. Why do we forget? We must know it, being teacher. Why do we forget something? And can memory be improved? This is another question which will be read under this discipline, that what is memory, what are the types of memory, and how can we overcome on the phenomena of forgetting something. Does the study of Sanskrit helps then to study Hindi? So this is also a psychological question, that a related concept named Sanskrit can help the students to learn Hindi as well, because these are having some similar words to be used in this language. Similarly, if you know Urdu, you can easily learn Punjabi, because some of the words are overlapped, or some become a basic language and then the other language is taught with the help of the previous learning. So psychology not only raise certain questions but also gives you answer of these questions in order to make you a good teacher. And we cannot ignore the psychological principles to teach the students while teaching the students, because we are concerned with their learning. And learning is that, what is learning? Learning is a positive permanent change in behavior that occurs due to some teaching. Whatever we teach, we expect our students to learn that. Psychological principles are used in formulation curriculum for different ages and stages. This is a nature relevant questions which will be dealt. So here we are, till yet we have a consensus on that psychology helps teachers to become good teachers, and it also helps students to become good students. For teachers, it tells them different techniques and methods to use and teach the students, and for students it helps to become good learners and to memorize and not to forget the material what is taught. And on the level of application, curriculum development cannot be done without using the principles of educational psychology. So the areas of application will be of educational psychology are so many. We cannot deny the importance of this subject, being teacher as well as being student. Next is nature of educational psychology. So we should know the nature of psychology, although in the previous material we have gone through, but here in bullet form very rightly written that following are important characteristics of the nature of educational psychology. We will go through having a slight look one by one. It is an applied branch of psychology, and it combines two fields, education and psychology. It is a scientific study of human behavior in educational situation. Being teacher, if you are a teacher, if you are a student, that is your educational situation, and psychology is the study of human mind and human behavior. So it is applied in the educational context. Number 4, it is concerned with these factors, principles and techniques which are related to the various aspects of child growth and development. It is very important for a teacher to know what is the level of the student. You cannot teach a 6th grade student with the similar way that you used to teach a 10th grade student. So these are the stages of growth and development of the students. So psychology tells us that what is the level, growth and development stage of the students, so we can, being teacher, can adopt relevant techniques to teach them. Next is learning situation and process by which learning can be more efficient and effective. It is to be learned. Efficient and effective, this is a big debate, that how in minimum resources how can we maximize the learning proficiency, and effectiveness means how likely we can achieve our objectives whatever we have made being teacher before entering into the classroom. Next is educational psychology draws heavily from various branches of psychology, biology, sociology and anthropology. Sociology and anthropology also both are called the study of social behaviors. Sociology, society. So psychology is not a single branch, it has some light from biology. For example, if we study memory and forgetting and growth and development in psychology, this portion is taken from biology, and as well as sociology, because development is incomplete without the study of society and anthropology. So again, next point in the nature of educational psychology says that it is not as exact as natural sciences, but it is dynamic and human behavior, because we cannot say it natural science, this is social science, even though it has some component of natural science like biology, but we cannot say it as a natural science. You must be knowing, being student, that what is the difference between natural sciences and social sciences. Next is educational psychology, is a science of education dealing primarily with with how, when and what of education. So it does not only tell that how is the educational process should be, when it should occur and what of education should be included. So it deals with the detailed these 3 type of questions, and it is concerned with the value of education and does not concern itself with what ought to be. It only describes what is it is an applied positive science. So it does not tell you that what should be done and what should be not done. It tells you what it is and the reasons and justifications of the phenomena under study. Psychology deals with the behavior of all individuals in all walks of life, so it's dealing with the behavior of the pupil as well. Pupil is the student in relation to educational environment. So being teacher, we must know that what is the behavior of the students and what are the likely reasons of their behavior occurrence. Lastly, here the point is, it does not concern with what and why of education. It gives the necessary knowledge and skills for giving education to the pupil in a satisfactory way. So without the knowledge of psychology, we cannot become a good teacher, and without the knowledge of educational psychology, we cannot become good students. These are the areas which points which tells us the nature of educational psychology. The last point here is the scope of educational psychology. Scope means the areas of application. What are the areas where this discipline, educational psychology, is applied? So there are two parallel points, learner as well as teacher. I have told you earlier that psychology do not help only the learner, that how the learning process occurs and what are the teaching strategies that make his learning more effective and efficient, but it also helps the teacher to grasp the material to be taught thoroughly, which is learning content, curriculum, and evaluation of learning outcomes. That how a teacher can make assessments of the learning, and whatever he has planned to teach the students, at the end of the lecture he can measure that what learning outcomes have been achieved or not. So these are the areas which will be told in points here under the scope of educational psychology. This is your last topic of this lecture, lecture 1. Scope of educational psychology. These are the areas 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These 6 areas tell us that what is the scope of educational psychology. These 6 areas tell us the areas of application of educational psychology. One by one. Number 1 is learner. Learner means you people, the students, learners. Educational psychology helps learners to know different leaves and deals with the techniques of knowing him well. Being a learner, you know with the help of psychology that what is the best time of learning, what are your innate abilities. What innate abilities mean? Whatever the ability you have by birth, and capabilities of the individual as well as their differences. Who is covert, who is overt. Overt and covert means, overt means, what does it mean? Evident, and covert means hidden. So these qualities of a learner and his behavior are learned and known under the heading learner. Psychology tells the learner and helps him how to become a good learner and apply its different techniques. Number 2 is learning process. Without psychology, psychology explains that what is the learning process within the classroom. Whatever we are learning, our experiences are called learning process. It says that psychology gives you certain laws and principles and theories which explains your learning. How do you learn? How do you remember something? How do you forget something? What is the level of perceiving something? What is the concept of formation? Concept formation. That one concept is told to you, that is not likely to be learned thoroughly. It needs some rehearsal, some repetitions, and the concept formation differ from one person to the other. Similarly, like perceiving. Then comes thinking, reasoning, problem solving, transfer of training, ways and means of effective learning. You will learn these points from this full paragraph. These are the these are the aspects which are helped and studied under educational psychology, under learning process. Next is learning situation. The environment in which learning occurs, what are the factors those affect learning process, with those that is dealt under learning situation. A simple example is that whenever there is a noise outside the classroom, you cannot learn well. you cannot understand well. There are different techniques learning situation under learning situation. Sometimes group dynamics techniques are used. Teacher give you a topic with the reading material and makes you to team up and read in the groups. That learning becomes effective and you learn more effectively in teamwork. So another example is guidance and counseling. What is the difference of guidance and counseling? Whenever you guide a student according to all the students in a group, that is the guidance. But whenever somebody is facing, say, particular problem and he needs some counseling, that is counseling. He needs some direction, that is counseling. So this is sphere and this is general. Guidance is general and counseling is sphere. So learning situation does also includes the principles of educational psychology. Next is teaching situation. These 3 points were related to the learner, but next are related to the teacher. Teaching situation itself tells the teacher that what are the, according to the mental and physical age of the students, teacher can proceed. Certain principles are told by educational psychology, that what is his previous knowledge, what is the knowledge of the student, and what is the interest level of the student. Without knowing these, a teacher should not proceed his teaching. By describing the learner's characteristics, what teaching aids are appropriate for the particular subject. So I cannot expect a 10th grade or a school level student to be taught in the way I am teaching you people. So this is my teaching situation, which is explained clearly by educational psychology, that this method of teaching will help you to learn well. The second last is evaluation of learning performance. Psychology also tells us as a teacher that how we can evaluate our students. It includes 3 domains: cognitive, affective and psychomotor. Tell me, who out of you people have learnt about these 3 domains earlier? Cognitive, affective and psychomotor. While making the classroom objectives, teacher goes through these domains, taken from Bloom's taxonomy. Cognitive, relevant to the mental processes; affective, relevant to your attitude and behavior; whereas psychomotor are related to your muscular power and your physical activities, co-curricular activities. So how can a teacher best evaluate and assess his students? Principles of psychology helps him, that we can take your test, quiz test, mid test, final test, on the basis of cognitive domain, which further includes, do you know something, do you remember something, can you apply something, can you analyze, synthesize and evaluate and create something new. Affective domains tells us that how can you behave well in certain situations, and psychomotor we can add some sports or extracurricular activities related to your curriculum. How can a teacher take test? He should take oral test or written test, or he should take viva voice of the students, or he can identify that what are the issues related to the testing, because we have known that people face difficulty and hesitation whenever they are tested. So these all the problems and issues, that how can we evaluate our students, this is told by psychology. Last point is the teacher. The teacher does also take much help from educational psychology, because it emphasizes the need of knowing the self for a teacher to play his role properly in the process of education. It throws light on the essential personality traits, interests, aptitudes and characteristics of effective teaching. So being teacher, we keep on analyzing our own self, our own teaching, that how effective teachers we are, so as to inspire, help teacher handle the stress, conflict and anxiety by giving insight in their own personality. Teacher takes help from educational psychology. So this is all about today's lecture. Having an overview of the lecture, we have gone through the definition of educational psychology, these are 5 definition with reference to the author's name: Crow and Crow, Skinner, Stephen, Judd, Peel. So you will learn 2 out of these, any 2 with reference to the author name. Next is scope and nature of educational psychology. So hope you have gone through this lesson as well. This is the end of my lecture for today. Thank you.